Hi everyone, this presentation is about John Napier of Merchiston. First, I want to begin by giving an overview of John Napier and who he was. So he lived during both the 16th and the 17th centuries, and during his years as a mathematician, he created a few mathematical ideas that are very prevalent and important in today's mathematics. In addition, he took mathematical ideas that have already been discovered and he advised them and made them more accessible to mathematicians. We will also talk more about his life as a mathematician, but for now, I want to talk about his upbringing and how he came to be a famous mathematician. Napier was born February 1st, 1550 in Edinburgh, Scotland. He was born into a very wealthy family. In fact, his father was Sir Archibald Napier, and he was a well-respected man in the late 16th century. And Napier's family also owned a large estate in Scotland, as well as in a few other towns. As soon as Napier was born, people knew that he was destined for greatness. Many people saw this, including the Bishop of Orkney, who actually wrote a letter to Napier's father saying, "I pray you, sir, to send your son John to school, over to France or Flanders, for he cannot learn well at home, nor get profit in this most perilous world, that he may be saved in it, that he may seek honor and profit, as I do not doubt that he will." So Napier's father ended up taking the word of the bishop, and he actually admitted Napier into the University of St. Andrews when Napier was only 13 years old. And this is where Napier's love for math started. So mathematics was not the first subject that interested Napier. He actually was first interested in theology at his first couple years at St. Andrews. There are no records of him actually obtaining a degree from St. Andrews, so many believe that he left the university to study in Europe, possibly at the University of Cambridge. And throughout his times at this university, he only did mathematics as a hobby. He actually wrote in one of his documents that he often found the calculations and the hard work needed for the mathematics too hard to do between his studies of theology. So it was more of just a side study and a hobby for him. Even though mathematics was just a hobby, he still excelled in mathematics, and we are about to talk about those. Okay, first, Napier is mostly known for his creations of logarithms. He actually found logarithms after long hours of calculations in astronomy. When he was working on astronomy, he realized that the calculations were so long, so he wanted to figure out something that would make those a little shorter. It's also said that he had a published work on logarithms, and it's a very long, difficult saying, but it's something around Mirifici Logarithorum Canonis Descriptio, and this was actually published in 1614. To the right, you see a picture of something contained in his works. This is a picture of his theory of logarithms and the tables of natural logarithms. Like I said, he created these logarithms because he spent too much time making long calculations. So after about 2 decades of working on trying to make these calculations shorter, his idea of the logarithm came into place. Napier was also able to comprehend that large numbers can be calculated by using powers, which we know as exponential form. This new mathematical concept did not only help the field of mathematics, it also helped astronomy, physics, and astrology. So this idea is used in multiple fields, not just mathematics. Okay, so yes, logarithms is very important in mathematics today. We all use them, we all know of them, so it's really interesting that he's the one that created those. Okay, now we have Napier's bone. So this is one of the names given to the device that Napier created that manually calculates products and quotients. This is what you see on the right of your screen. That is Napier's bone. This device has special rods, which are known as Napier's bones, that's where the name comes from, and they have multiplication tables embedded into them. So the use of the rods reduces multiplication to addition and division to subtraction. This device can also be used to find square roots when it is used in an intensive way. Many people think that these rods are logarithms, but they are actually not. Although this idea can kind of relate to logarithms because it makes calculations simpler, it is actually just multiplication tables that are dissected and made simpler. To give you an idea of how this works, I will try to walk you through it, but bear with me because it's kind of confusing. This device is made up of a base of a rim. The person who wants to use it would place Napier's bones inside of the rim to do the multiplication or division. On the left side, the board is divided into 9 squares. These 9 squares each hold the numbers 1 through 9. As I said, each rod has a multiplication table already engraved on each side of its face. So then the contraption will do its work to help solve intricate problems. I'm not really the best at explaining this, so I decided to go and find a video to give you that visual. So let me pull that up real quick. This is the video. Okay, so that is the video. It's really interesting to see how that actually ends up working. And as you saw, the contraption in the video was slightly different from the one pictured. They have multiple models of this, and it keeps just evolving over time. And it can be made out of wood, it could be made out of plastic, or even cardboard at some point. So the last mathematical concept that John Napier was most fascinated with was the decimal point. He did not invent this, though. The decimal point was actually invented by another mathematician by the name of Simon Stevin. Napier was intrigued by the decimal point, and he knew it would play an important part of mathematics in the years to come. So he spent a lot of time on the decimal notation and making sure that the decimal point was a more common mathematical idea so that it could be used more in the future. He may not have created the decimal point, but many still think about him whenever that mathematical idea comes up, because he's the one that made it most common in today's mathematical world. So those are kind of the mathematical ideas that Napier was most known for. So like I said, logarithms, Napier's bone, and making the decimal point more common. But he was not just a mathematician, he was more than that, and he is known for a couple other contributions to society. So in Napier's first 10 years of life, there was a war that raged between the Roman Catholicism and Protestantism, the religions. So although this war ended within like the first 10 years of his life, he was always afraid that another war would come up. So he decided to dedicate some of his time to creating new war technologies to make sure that his country was safe just in case another war broke out. One of his inventions were 2 types of mirrors, and they burn down enemy ships whenever the sun is positioned on the mirror and the ship. So the sun hits the mirror, the ray from the mirror hits the ship and then it burns down the ship. As you can see to the right, it's a decent picture of what it would look like, but it was a pretty interesting invention. He also invented firearms and a battle vehicle that was covered in metal plates to protect the person driving it, and it was man-driven. So Napier was not only a mathematician, he was also a scientist, and he used his intelligence for the better to protect those that he really cared about, because religion was something that was very big to him. So if another war were to sprout between two religions, he wanted to make sure that his religion was protected. And he also wrote a book about his religion, because he thought that someone from another country was going to use their power and their religion to take over the religion in his country. So he wrote a book, and he was a Protestant. So he wrote this book about Protestantism to kind of empower the people in his country, so that if someone were to come and try to take them over, they wouldn't stand for that, and they would kind of recite and look back to the book that Napier wrote and just be empowered by that and not stand for what the other person would do. So, go to the next slide. So I chose Napier because I was really interested in logarithms. Ever since I started math, I kind of questioned like what they were. How does this even work? Who could even come up with something this crazy? And so whenever we were doing the 120 mathematicians and I saw that Napier was the one who created logarithms, I was really interested in how that came to be. But whenever I was researching him, I decided that he's just more than a mathematician. He's not just someone who just did math and stuck to that, and that's why he's famous. He put his hard work and his dedication into making sure that his family and that his country was safe. And his war inventions changed the way of war technology forever. Like now we have these big machines, man-driven, with guns out of them. Like I believe that he's one of those guys that started that. And his invention with the sun hitting the mirror is just something that is crazy. Like who would think about that? So those inventions really show how intelligent he was and what kind of man he was and how well-rounded he was. Like, yes, his math is amazing, like what he came up with, like the Napiers Bone is just a really intricate mathematical technology. But when we look at him as an overall person, he was just someone who loved to protect, he loved to invent, and he just overall was an intelligent man. So I had a really fun time just kind of researching who he was, how he came to be famous, and what other contributions he made to society. Because like I said, he wasn't just a mathematician. He was a scientist, he was an inventor, he was everything. So I really did have a good time researching him, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this PowerPoint. If you have any other questions on who he was, I would love to answer them. Like I said, I really enjoyed researching him. So yeah, bye guys.